We've seen a tremendous shift when it comes to mining in Mexico. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was a question mark whether the new president in Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, will continue to be anti-mining and anti-foreign investments, or if she is going to do a, let's say, 180-degree shift. And what we can see right now, it feels like we have the second option, meaning a 180-degree shift. And with me today is someone who is in the middle of Mexico, in the mining industry, waiting for its permit for quite a while with a really interesting project. Kenneth MacLeod, the CEO of Sonoro Gold, a well-known company here within our German-speaking investor community. And we have great updates today. Ken, thank you very much for your time. It's great having you again.
Thank you, Jan. Pleasure to talk to you again.
Great. So maybe you can pick us up a little bit. What has happened since the last time we talked? I think it's only 4 or 5 weeks ago we had a great interview talking about what could be, and now it seems like it's happening. So what happened over the last few weeks?
Well, the sea change politically has already happened in Mexico. While the new government under the Morena party leadership it continues some of the programs from the previous administration. The most important differential is that the new president, Claudia Sheinbaum, is taking a different approach to the mining aspect in the country. And beforehand, one of the issues that we were facing was the potential for a ban on open pit mining. Now, it never went beyond the potential stage. It was included in her manifesto of July of this year, where I think it was 0.87 was the potential ban on open pit mining. That has now been removed. The new 100-point manifesto that she has placed on our website now does not include a ban on open pit mining. Now, that is a good sign that the issue is essentially dead. We're working on the premise now that we can proceed with obtaining the final approval to build the mine. And so we're tweaking the environmental impact statement to accommodate some interesting additions, such as cutting down on emissions as part of the operation. And that can be done with very little design modifications. And so we want to make the project as sustainable as possible, because that is the key word that is being utilized now in Mexico: sustainability and social impact. And social impact, we've already established that the relationship we have with the local residents 14 kilometers away in the village of Cocurpe, the relationship is very strong. We have an office there, and we will be employing people there. And they, of course, high-paying jobs in the mining sector are really sought after in that area. So the sea change has occurred. We have President Sheinbaum now looking forward to making sure that foreign investors have nothing to worry about in Mexico. And I quote, she assures us in no uncertain terms that we as foreign investors have nothing to worry about in Mexico. And I want to emphasize that. Now, going forward, we'll take it at her word. And the fact that the open pit mining ban potential has been removed, removes a huge cloud from our future potential in Mexico. So now we're going to capitalize on that and move ahead.
Thank you very much for updating us here a little bit. And just within the last few days, we have also seen that your share price has really picked up on all these kind of news. We're going towards right now 7 Canadian cents, which is really a huge difference, right? I think your stock has made like 60% within the last few days. So does it really, it looks to me, or it feels to me, that people just have been waiting for this kind of news, and now we're having a pathway to production. So what do you feel that the administration who is responsible for signing all this kind of things like your license that you're waiting for, has anything changed here? Have they indicated something? What do you think? What is the feeling?
When you look at the makeup of the new administration in Mexico, President Sheinbaum has put together a stellar team of people who are pragmatic and who are focused on growing the economy. And I think it's important to emphasize the economy is not doing well in Mexico. And certainly over the past 6 years, there's been, under the populist administration of López Obrador, there's been a huge amount of additional debt incurred by the Mexican economy, by the Mexican government. And as a result, the economy has slowed down, and the future growth for this year is estimated at 1.2%, which is fairly dismal because it doesn't keep in pace with the inflation rate. And so we're looking at a point right now where mining has become a very important component of the recovery of the Mexican economy. And so when you look at 8% of the GDP of Mexico being reliant on mining, and 70% of these mines are open pit mines, I think you can put the math together and say, we need to put as many mines into production in Mexico as possible in order to stimulate the economy and get back to a very, very reasonable economy and a reasonable standard of living for all of the Mexicans.
Great. So seems like you have a great feeling over there. But let's have a look at some people still being a little bit, let's say, critic to all the situations. They are not as euphoric as we probably are, because some people say, okay, Sheinbaum doesn't have it on the 100-point list anymore. She says publicly that the foreign investment is safe in the country, but they still believe, or some people still believe, it could be a nationalized industry like we have seen in the energy industry in Mexico before. I mean, you're really an expert when it comes to Mexico, so tell us a little bit about the history. Can we see another nationalism here, or do you think the mining and metals industry is totally different and we are now open for new pathways and open for production?
Oh, I believe that mining and metals is very, very different from the oil and gas industry, and B, the lithium industry. That was a key component of the previous administration in nationalizing the lithium industry, which of course is all essentially open pit mining as well. So it's a little bit of a strange situation there. But when it comes to oil and gas has always been concentrated in a few companies in Mexico, and it was a nationalized industry many years ago, only partially liberated in the recent decades. And so the fact that there's talk about nationalizing the balance of the oil and gas industry under Pemex is to me, it's a non-issue, because it's essentially it has been a closed market to outside companies for a long time. Now, when it comes to mining, we're talking about thousands of different mining companies. Nationalization of the mining industry would be a complete disaster for Mexico. I don't even believe it's being discussed in the government circles at all, and I've never had any exposure to that from our dealings with the government in Sonora State and the government in Mexico City. So I don't think it's an issue, and I believe that going forward, when you look at the wealth of technical expertise that is within Mexico and has been brought from outside into Mexico as well to develop the mining industry, it is essential for the economy of Mexico for us to be encouraged to build the mines and provide wealth throughout Mexico, because mining, there's hardly a state in Mexico that is not heavily reliant on the mining industry for GDP growth and GDP as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. That really means something, and it really sounds like we have green light now. So let's pretend you get your license pretty soon. Let's talk a little bit about the economic potential of Sonoro Gold here. As I already said, we have seen a little bit of a share price increasement, but we are far away from levels that we had already, right? I think we've been to 35, 40 cents already with the company, because you have quite a potential there. You're valuated with around, let's say, below 10 million Canadian dollars. So there is a lot of upside probably. So tell us, what does Cerro Caliche mean when it comes to economics? If you get the green light, what can people expect here?
Well, I don't believe it's a case of if we get the green light. I believe it's when we get the green light. I cannot pinpoint exactly whether it'll happen in this final quarter of 2024 or will it be sometime in 2025. However, I'm confident that it will happen and we will achieve the go-ahead to build the mine. Now, this was expected over 2 years ago. And if you recall, 2 years ago, like you said, we were trading at 39.40 cents. And that was on the expectation that we would get the license to build the mine, and off we go. And next thing will be measured in the marketplace by the fact that we're developing cash flow. However, that did not occur, and we were kept on the hook for essentially over 2 years, waiting for this environmental permit approval, which never arrived under the old administration. So now that we're ready to put the final touches to the mine plan and hopefully receive the environmental approval in the next few months. So I predict it will be in the next few months. Then we can proceed. And on the basis of, from the time that we receive the approval, or what is called the MIA approval to build the mine, then we would expect that within 12 months, we would be pouring the first doré bar. And I'm confident that that is the case because building an open pit mine is a relatively simple task. Now, many of the roads, if not most of the roads, are already in place, and they just need hardening for the heavy trucks to go across them. As far as the siting of the leach pad and the ADR plant and the crusher, we already have established the locations for those. And it's not an extremely difficult engineering task to build the leach pad and the crusher pad. So locating the transmission line from the neighboring mine site at Cerro Prieto to ours is a 3-kilometer extension. So that's not a difficult task either. And so water supply is available to us. An environmental permit, I don't think you're going to find a much better project to build from an environmental aspect, because we're on an existing cattle ranch with hundreds, if not thousands, of cattle on the ranch, and the cattle and the mining operations coexist hand in hand. There's no conflict between us, and the rancher is very supportive of our proposal to build the mine. And the next door neighbor is Cerro Prieto mine on the same ranch as well. So we have a history. There's a history of dealing with a rancher and being able to coexist quite peacefully. So I would say that once we get the environmental approval, there are many entities that we've been dealing with from a financing perspective to be able to provide the funding to build the mine. And it's not just related to an equity injection into the company. We're also looking at forward selling of gold. We're looking at various aspects for mitigating against dilution to the shareholders in order that we can secure the project funding. And at $2,600 gold, I can assure you that there's a lineup of people who are interested in funding projects of this nature. So we will capitalize on that.
Great. So all of this sounds really good. And as we already said, all we need is the green light. And you already outlined that there could be the potential to get the green light soon. So thank you very much, Ken, for your statements. In the end, we know that we have many German investors in Sonoro Gold, and all of them are waiting for the big thing to happen. Do you have any last words to the German shareholders of the company, or all the shareholders who are watching the video?
Yeah, so certainly to all the shareholders, extend a very strong thank you for supporting us over the past few years during the tough times, especially to the German shareholders. The German shareholders have been very conscientious in continuing the dialogue with us and wanting to remain on top of what is happening politically in Mexico. And I feel very strongly that some of the strongest shareholders we have in Sonoro are in the German market. So I look forward to continuing the dialogue. I look forward to continuing to have the support of the German shareholders. And when the time comes, we'd love to get together in Germany with many of your shareholders and many of our shareholders. And hopefully we'll be looking at a much different Sonoro Gold at that point.
So let's see, Ken, thank you very much. And I mean, our last interview is only a couple of weeks ago. Let's see where Sonoro Gold is in another couple of weeks. So I wish you a great fourth quarter, and talk to you soon. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jan. A real pleasure.